Hi, and welcome back to Arsenal Vavel's official YouTube channel. And we're back again with another episode of My 1 to 11. And it is an absolute pleasure to say I am joined by Dave Seager. Dave, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thanks for inviting me.
That's all right. No worries at all. Obviously, fresh off the back of last night's game. And I mean,
Buzzing.
we've only got to start in one place, haven't we? Charlie Patino comes on, makes his debut, a player that we've both followed for a while now. And obviously, personally, you know as well. Just sum up in a few kind of words. How was last night for you, and how special was it to be there?
Honestly, COVID aside, if it hadn't been the situation with Charlie, I probably would have skipped last night. Not because I didn't want to be there, but just because of the family were worried about, infection, Christmas. And I know a lot of my friends didn't go last night, but I went because I sort of pretty much knew Charlie was going to play. He and his dad had told me when I met them that he was due to play against Wimbledon. His shirt was hung up in the dressing room, and he was literally withdrawn from the squad at the last minute because only declared he was fit. So that. So yeah, and I asked him when I met him, "Are you nervous about making your debut?" And he just said, "No, Dave, I'm just excited." And so I was never going to miss that game, and didn't realise when they made three substitutions there was more than three subs in this competition. I was sitting there thinking, I can't believe this. I sat back and I was like, I can't believe he's just made that third substitution. And then when my daughter I was with said, "He's stripping off, Dad, he's stripping off," I was like, yes. Yeah, no, it's fabulous.
Yeah, and he only got about 10 minutes, but he took his 10 minutes very well, and obviously getting on the score sheet in the 91st minute, I bet it was just kind of, and even the rings of old Charlie Patino going around the Emirates, it was just a...
Well, that was before he scored as well. When he came on, so the fan base is in tune with the expectation of the player himself and the club for that player. We've had that in the past with Jack, and obviously we've had it more recently with Bukayo. But yeah, you get that build up around a player. At the moment, there's obviously a huge buzz around more than one Hale End player, but it was always going to be Charlie this season, hopefully. And interesting to see what Arteta decides to do with him now with the AFCON and everything. He's obviously got some decisions to make in January. Maybe he needs to see Charlie, for 10 or 15 minutes in a Premier League game, just to see if he can step up. It's a huge decision for player and club, really, but we'll see.
100%. And you just touched on it as well. Obviously, we've had Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, even last night, Eddie Nketiah getting a hat-trick. There's so many Hale End talents coming through at Arsenal right now. How important do you think it is to have academy players coming through and stamping their authority on the first team?
Well, I don't think it's always been important, but I think right now for Arsenal it's massively important because with the sort of budgets that the other clubs have that we I wouldn't say can't compete with, but do not want to compete with. We've made a decision on our business model, and I saw Per Mertesacker speak brilliantly at the AST meeting a few weeks ago, basically saying, don't be fooled by last summer. That was a one-off. This is not our model. You won't see us splashing the cash. The pressure's on me at the academy to produce more Sakas and more Smith Rowes. So it goes back to the 80s when we had this, blend of fantastic homegrown with, experienced old campaigners that George Graham blended so well. I think that's what we're going to see. And and we're in a very fortunate position because if you look at the whole of Wenger's era, it never happened. We had literally two, Ashley Cole and Jack Wilshere. That's it. So to have two is amazing, and we could be in a position where we have three or four. We realistically could be in that position in the next couple of years.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's get straight into it. Have you decided what formation you're going to go for your 11?
Definitely 4-4-2. Me, I'm an old school.
4-4-2. Okay, you don't see that too much in the Premier League nowadays. Maybe you've seen Leicester do it a few years ago. Southampton sometimes.
You say that, but we've done it a bit recently, and I think
of course. I
think with the energy of Smith Rowe and Saka, there is potential for us to see it in the next few weeks. I do think we're going to get to that point where Arteta is going to have to say, let's see what it is like with all four in, with Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Saka and Odegaard. And then you might see Odegaard in that sort of Bergkamp role to Martinelli, the Henry role. I'm not comparing the players, but that sort of 4-4-1-1 where the striker pretty much like Henry had a completely roaming role. If you've got Saka and Smith Rowe willing to be the Freddie and Bobby, because they've got that work rate and the talent and the fitness, it's not inconceivable that we could see something like that.
Yeah, 100%. Very exciting times at Arsenal. And like you said, we have seen that 4-4-2 or a 4-4-1-1 kind of in the last...
with Laka in that withdrawn role behind Aubameyang. We saw it for about a month, didn't we, recently? So
Yeah, big fan of that as well, personally, with Lacazette. So we've gone for 4-4-2. Let's kick it off in goal. Who have you gone for as your goalkeeper?
I'm making this up as I go
Yeah,
along.
go. No worries, no worries.
Well, you only told me just before that it's like not necessarily my best 11 players. It could
Mm,
be personal favourites and so forth. So, but that said, I still would go with David Seaman. I mean, obviously, I
David
was
Seaman.
fortunate enough to when I started going, it was Jimmy Rimmer. And then obviously I was, many years, formative years with Pat Jennings. But thing is with Pat Jennings, as much as I love him, he was a Tottenham player first and foremost, and he's a Tottenham ambassador now. So much as I admire Pat, and he was a sensational keeper. And John Lukic, similarly brilliant. But yeah, David Seaman, head and shoulders, the best keeper I've seen at Arsenal.
Any moment in particular stand out for you that you were
Well,
there to
obviously,
see
I was fortunate to be at that, semi-final when he made that incredible save.
that save? Yeah.
Ultimately, in his final season, pretty much. But yeah, there was so many saves, and the thing with David Seaman was it was any part of the body type thing. He spread himself so well. He was so brave. And just so dominant, and the way he communicated, he's a strong, silent type. In his personal life, you see that. And sometimes he doesn't look comfortable in front of camera. He's getting much better than he used to be. But I just thought he had such a great relationship with his defense, and just a outstanding keeper. That said, I'm not sure he can play today.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Joe Hart, brilliant keeper, easily England's best keeper as a shot stopper. The modern
Mm,
game is different.
yeah.
And
You've got to be
whether
able to play with your feet, haven't you?
yeah, I don't think. Well, I'm sure he could have adapted, but it wouldn't have been natural to him.
Mm,
But yeah, as a goalkeeper and being part of so many trophies spread across two eras. Let's not forget, because he was a George Graham signing, and he was
yeah,
winning
yeah.
trophies under George Graham, and he continued to win trophies under Wenger. So yeah, definitely David Seaman be my number one.
Yeah, number one. Okay, and at right back, who are we going to go for at right back?
Um, I,
Talk us through what you're thinking. What
well,
are some of the
again,
options?
I mean, Pat Rice, legend, but
Yeah.
never, Pat Rice just made absolute maximum of his ability. Never top class player.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Dixon, similarly. If you go by trophies won, you'd have to go with Dicko. And Lauren, amazing. But the best right back I saw at Arsenal was Viv Anderson.
Okay.
Viv Anderson was even towards the end of his career, when he was at Man United, he was still a great player. We saw 2 or 3 amazing years in a bang average team, but obviously he was there for the first trophy that broke, 87. My first trophy, if you like, live was that cup final in 87. Yeah, Viv Anderson, first black player to play for England. Yeah, everything about Viv Anderson I loved. And as a pundit, he didn't really make it as a coach and manager, but yeah, so I would say, Dicko and Lauren would be the obvious choices, but for actual, I loved him, Viv Anderson. Yeah, he's the best right back I've seen at Arsenal.
Okay. That's a new one. We haven't heard that one before. It has kind of mainly been some people went for Ashley Cole.
The right back.
Sorry, not Ashley Cole. My bad. Sorry. Some people have gone for who was, I think Lauren was kind of the main kind of choice. Yeah, and I believe I went for Justin Hoyt just because of the obviously the article and that kind of
Yeah, I mean, Lauren was a converted centre midfield player, and he was a right back in the modern sort of swashbuckling style. Viv Anderson had that, but he was a fantastic defender, and obviously later played at centre back as well. You could be bitter because he went on to play for Man United when he left us, but yeah, no, for that 2 or 3 years when he was with us, and we had lots of good players, but we weren't a good team in the early 80s. He was a shining light in that team.
Yeah, I remember speaking to Justin when we did that interview, and he said that he plays over in Miami at the moment, and he said that he's not quite got the legs for right back anymore, so he finds himself at centre back more often than not. But brilliant start so far. So obviously David Seaman in goal, and then Anderson at right back. Centre back pairing, you've got many to choose from. You could go to some of the maybe more modern ones, or some of the brilliant centre backs Arsenal have had over the years. But who are you going to go for as your centre back pairing?
It's not even up for discussion. It's David O'Leary and Tony Adams. It's just absolutely undebatable in the modern era. They are the best 2 defenders we've had, head and shoulders.
Okay,
there's absolutely no debate. Tony Adams is the best player we've ever had. He's Arsenal's greatest ever player, in my opinion. And David O'Leary, just record appearances, centre back over so many generations, and in the latter years as a mentor to those coming through. They are the best two. There was a time when David O'Leary, when Frank Stapleton left, after Liam Brady had left, they were the great three sort of, the Irish players at Arsenal. There was another with John Devine as well, but they were the three great Irish players, and he was the one who stayed loyal.
Sure.
And at the time, people were talking about him in the same as being as talented as Franz Beckenbauer. That's how good. I mean, as a ball-playing centre-back, he was one of the best in Europe, and he could have left Arsenal to go anywhere in the world at that point, and he didn't. So easily David O'Leary on the with Tony Adams would be my pair.
Okay, no kind of shout for. I know Sol Campbell is obviously, he's been a brilliant name in obviously the Invincible generation, but still no shout in there for you at all.
Yeah, no, great player, but he wasn't as good as those two.
Sure.
No, I mean, if you were my age and you'd grown up with David O'Leary, and you'd understand. Sol Campbell was a great defender. David O'Leary was at a different level for me.
Okay.
And the longevity as well. I mean, Sol Campbell, didn't stay at Arsenal when he could have done, went to Portsmouth. That was left under a bit of a cloud. Obviously, great because he came from Tottenham, and we all love that story. But no, David O'Leary, I know there's been some animosity, when he went to Leeds, and a bit of acrimony when he's Leeds manager. But as an Arsenal player, he was, 700. No one's ever going to reach 763 games in the modern era for a modern, for Arsenal. He's just, him and Adams, definitely.
Sure. Arsenal through and through, both of them as well. And Mr. Arsenal, Tony Adams. And then at left back to finish off the back four and the defence.
This is one of the hardest ones because, and I've written articles about this because you had Kenny Sampson, you had Nigel Winterburn, and you had Ashley Cole. That they are the three, in the conversation, and on pure ability, sadly, it is Ashley Cole.
Okay, yeah.
But for my personal affection, again, Kenny Sampson, first captain of the club, lifting a trophy in 1987, my first one I saw live. Love Kenny, but I'd have to go with Nutty. I think I would go with Nigel Winterburn just for the pure, the energy, the drive, the never say die attitude on the pitch. I just love Nigel Winterburn. Some of the spectacular goals he scored, and being part of that legendary back four. I would get those three. I could give it to anyone, to be honest. I could even go back further and look Sammy Nelson and Bob McNabb, but no, I would go with Nutty Winterburn, definitely.
Sure. Okay, and still obviously very involved at the club at the moment. Yeah. He does the Legends tours, doesn't he?
He does that. He's certainly one of the club ambassadors now. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And even when he went to West Ham, no acrimony, just wanted to play. Was offered a cracking. I interviewed him. Offered a cracking contract by Arsenal. Wenger wanted him to stay, but he knew he wasn't going to play, and he was just that generation. I don't care about the money. He went to West Ham for less money to play week in, week out because he thought he could still do it at the top level, and I admire that. There are players in the modern era who wouldn't do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously another name you mentioned there, Ashley Cole, the pure ability level. And I remember I was watching a clip the other day of, I think it was Ashley Cole in the 2004 World Cup against Cristiano Ronaldo. And the way he was just shutting down probably one of the best players for England. And then obviously just the way that he went to Chelsea was just like you said, ability wise is probably one of the best ones, but just the whole story behind that was just a kind of less a bit of a sour taste. But to be honest, everyone that I've spoken to as an Arsenal fan, and even speaking to Justin Hoyt, I think just everyone just admired Cole whilst he was at the club. But you've gone for Nigel Winterburn. Are you confident you confident that back four and goalkeepers keeping out the goals?
Yeah, no question about that. They may not be the most creative, but no.
Okay.
And Ashley Cole was. I still think Ashley Cole played his best football. In the last 2 years at Arsenal, because he didn't become a better player. He probably became a better defender under Mourinho, but he wasn't allowed to be that swashbuckling left back that Wenger allowed him to be. So I think we saw less of the Cole we admired after he left us. I know it's easy to say that, sadly, but genuinely, Mourinho wouldn't let him over the halfway line when he went.
Yeah,
he wasn't the same player.
Yeah. Well, moving into your midfield, you've gone for a 4-4-2, so we'll go for the two midfield players. I've got a few guesses at who you might go for, but who are you going to go for as your first kind of maybe more a holding centre midfielder?
I don't have any. I've got two.
Oh, okay, you got purely
Well, I
attack.
mean, yeah, I mean, people ill-advisedly might call Patrick Vieira a holding midfield player, which he never was.
No, no, no.
So Petty was, or Gilberto was, or Parlour was, whoever. But no, Vieira was a box-to-box midfield player, par, excellence, and we've never seen the like. The Premier League closest thing we've seen is Yaya Touré, and I still say Yaya Touré at his best wasn't as good as Vieira at his best. So Vieira's, head and shoulders, in the team without any debate. And yeah, just what he could do with the ball, his strength, his power, his energy, finishing off moves, starting moves, so creative, telescopic legs, would win the ball when he didn't have any right to, just the best player, really, in that position. And alongside him, there's only one. It has to be Liam Brady. So
Liam Brady, okay.
So my son was named after Liam Brady. I fell in love with Arsenal in the early 70s when he was just coming into the team. He was the great hope, after the sort of dull years in the sort of mid 70s when we finished in the bottom six, 2 or 3 times, and he was the great hope, and he proved to be that. And such a shame that he didn't stay longer, but for the impression he made on me as a young football fan. And I just hope young players can watch videos of him, or young fans can see videos of him in that season in '79 when we won the FA Cup and he won the PFA Player of the Year. He was voted as the best player in the league by his fellow professionals, and we know what that means. That is the ultimate accolade, because he was the best player in the league, and he went on to do incredible things for Juventus. I mean, from midfield, he scored 20 goals. He scored the goal by penalty that won them their first title for years, even though he knew he wasn't going to be there the following season, because that was when you had the certain number of one foreign player, and Michel Platini had been signed, so he knew he was going to be replaced at Juve. He still scored the goal that won them the league, I think, from memory. Just an outstanding footballer. And then obviously he came back at the game when he came back for West Ham. A lot of Arsenal fans, myself included, were devastated that we didn't re-sign him. It would be the modern equivalent of when Fabregas went to
Fabregas. Yeah, okay.
When you saw, although Brady had played for 4 clubs in Italy and he was a senior statesman by then, but when he turned up for West Ham, and the whole of Highbury was just singing Brady, 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 born is the king of Highbury, which he'd sort of inherited that song from Charlie George, and it was just goosebumps, hairs on your neck. It was just the king had returned, but playing for for another team, and it was such a bittersweet moment. And obviously, I've met him a few times, when I interviewed him for the Geordie Armstrong book, and just, But yeah, as a player, never seen anything like that. What a wonder of a left foot. So yeah, those two, and we've had some great ones. As much as people would hate to me to say it, I mean, Cesc Fabregas is the best midfield player we've seen since Vieira.
Okay.
And even Santi, who I love to bits. Not quite at Cesc level, not the Cesc level. I mean, given that Cesc was 19, 20 when he was producing those figures for Arsenal against, against quality sides. But no, it would have to be Brady and Vieira as my midfield creative engines.
Okay. Honourable mention to anyone else at all, obviously. You said,
definitely to Cesc and definitely to Santi. I mean, Santi latterly, but he was more a 10, for me, or a wide player. So no, not central midfield players. Obviously, Manu Petit was amazing for those 2 or 3 years. And when I was growing up, you had people like Brian Talbot, but no, and those players, Vieira and Brady, always, head and shoulders for me. Yeah, and Cesc is the closest.
Sure. For me, I think I put Ray Parlour in there just because, obviously, a bit of a generation gap. Obviously, didn't really grew up watching him. I grew up watching your kind of Fabregases and Van Persie, Nasri, that kind of generation. But I read Ray Parlour's book, which came out in, I believe it was in an Arsenal membership pack one year.
Yeah, it was about 4 years ago.
Yeah, the Real Romford Pele, I believe it was called. And honestly, I think it's one of the best books I have read. So anyone watching, make sure you read. Have you read it yourself, Dave?
Yeah, more than once.
Yeah, brilliant. And just some of the stories in there with Parlour and Tony Adams in particular. I think there were some very funny ones. One in particular,
a bit of a scallywag,
yeah. Like I remember there was one where I believe him and Adams were responsible for fire extinguishing some Tottenham vans at one point after they were after giving
Pizza
him
Hut in Romford, wasn't it?
yeah, giving him some grief at a restaurant or something like that. But honestly, well,
No,
Ray Parlour.
Ray Parlour is a lovely guy, definitely an Arsenal legend. Still most appearances by any Arsenal player in the Premier League, which no one's anywhere near catching. But to be honest with you, he started as a central midfield player. Then Wenger moved him out to the right, which was just a revelation. No one expected it, and Wenger did that quite often. He moved players to positions that surprised them. I remember it was almost as it was a case of, if he said to Ray Parlour, when you get the ball in the centre midfield, because you're one-footed, it takes you longer to what you're going to do to address the ball. Whereas if I put you out on the right, as soon as you get the ball, you'll be able to address the ball. And he had two incredible seasons particularly the first double. 97-98, he won man of the match in the FA Cup final. He had an incredible season, then on the right of midfield, and then obviously latterly Freddie came in and he moved back into the centre when we sold Petit, and he played a fantastic double season alongside Vieira in 2002. So Ray Parlour was a stalwart of the team in more than one position, but on pure ability, he's a lovely guy, and he's definitely a firm fan favourite for loads of reasons. Maybe on my substitutes bench.
Maybe on the substitutes bench. Okay. Obviously, well, you said you had put out on the right. We've seen that over the years with Wenger as well. Obviously, one for me that comes to mind was Aaron Ramsey. He used to put him on the kind of right-hand side to facilitate him and Ozil in the same 11 a lot of the time. A bit more modern day, but
well, it was also that happened particularly when he was out injured. Well, everyone was out injured. Arteta was out injured, and he settled on that sort of formation of, by default, where almost by mistake with Coquelin and Santi, and it worked so well that when Ramsey came back fit, he was fortunate because Oxlade-Chamberlain was playing on the right and got injured, and Ramsey in the side. And it worked, and we won the FA Cup final in 2015 with him playing off the right. But I did actually write an article at the time that would compare him to particularly Freddie on the right, who was it was really a central midfield player who had been converted, and similarly to Ray Parlour. So I didn't have any issue with a lot of his Ramsey fanboys hated it, but I had no issue with it, and I thought it worked rather well.
Yeah, fantastic player, but obviously not the levels of Liam Brady and Patrick Vieira, who you've gone for in your centre midfield. We're going to move on to, well, these aren't really the exciting positions when you come to a team like this. Every position is exciting, but we'll move on to your wide players now in your 4-4-2 formation. On the right-hand side, who have you gone for?
On the right-hand side, the honorary mention for Freddie, definitely. But it has to be David Rocastle. There's no question. He is my generation. He is, born in the same year as me, I think. Grew up in Southeast London like me. I know his family. I know his son well. But for me, growing up, as a teenager, with him breaking into the side in my early 20s, just never seen anything like it. I've never seen a player who worked as hard with that much talent, until Bergkamp, probably. There was to have that God-given skill and talent, and then combine it with the tenacity and the tackling that he had and the vision. I just, as David Dean came home and said to his wife, I've just seen a player who plays like a Brazilian, and he's in our academy. Just an astonishing player. And obviously, over and beyond that, he epitomised everything that was good about being a homegrown player at Arsenal. And it was so sad that the injuries. And I didn't disagree with what happened. I mean, George Graham was no fool. He knew that he could not get more than 15, 20 games a season, and he sold him. And but that story, and that story, the reality of him telling him in the car park and Rocastle breaking down in tears, it was just astonishing. And also he played most of the qualifying games for, I think, 2 World Cups and a Euros and didn't go. It's just ridiculous. The players who played ahead of him for England, particularly when he played in the qualifiers. 90 World Cup was disappointing. 92 Euros, ridiculous that he didn't go to that. But he would easily be my right hand side. And there are some great players. You got, Freddie Ljungberg, obviously incredible talent, talismanic player. Geordie Armstrong, who played from sort of 61 to 77. He was in the team when I first started going. Incredible winger who could, put a ball on a sixpence. But I didn't see the greatest Geordie Armstrong. I saw the senior statesman Geordie Armstrong. But we've had some good Ray Parlour, we've already mentioned, but no,
Yeah.
right hand side of midfield, definitely Rocky. No question.
Rocky Rocastle. Rocky
Yeah.
Rocastle. Brilliant song as well, obviously.
Yeah.
And on the left-hand side, on the other wing, providing that kind of attacking flair, who have you gone for?
Yeah, well, obviously, as a kid growing up, the player in that position was Rixie, which, obviously there's a lot, a lot of water under the bridge with him since, and he wouldn't be under consideration. And a lot of people would go for, Mark Overmars for that 2 or 3 years. And the reason I probably won't is not because he wasn't an incredible player, was just because he left too early for us to be an Arsenal legend.
Okay.
And the other one who would be my generation with Rocky, who converted from a centre forward to left midfield, was Paul Merson.
Okay.
He played some great games from the left when we had sort of Campbell and Wright or Smith and Wright up front, and he played on the left. And he was brilliant in the 93, both cup runs in 93. But yeah, I'd have to go with Bobby Perez. Bobby Perez in that role is, he's just majestic, graceful, deceptively quick, incredible vision, assists coming out your ears, goals coming out your ears. I mean, when he won the PFA Player of the Year in 2001, 2002, when he was injured at the end of the season and he was on crutches on the rostrum when they presented the trophy, and literally the whole squad were just, we're not worthy. Even Henri knew that season. And bear in mind, he wasn't even there for the run-in. That's when he was injured. So Lundberg moved to the left and scored loads of goals, and Sylvain Wiltord played on the right. And, we finished the season without Bobby Perez. But for that 2 or 3 years, well, more, 4 or 5 years, just what a player. And it's so sad that he was the player that Wenger chose to take off in 2006 Champions League final. I mean, because it should have been Claire, it should have been Reyes. It never should have been Bobby Perez. But, there's the testament to the man. He never resented it. He's never had a bad word to say about Arsene Wenger. He loves Arsene Wenger. Just a great man, a great player, and a great ambassador for our club. So, yeah, Robert Perez on the left of a 4-4-2.
Okay. This side is shaping up very nicely. I feel like there's going to be, you've got a solid back four. You've got the David Seaman in the sticks, a brilliant midfield, and then some flair and trickery on the wide areas. Who are the two players? Well, let's do it one by one. Who's the first of your strikers that's going to finish off those chances?
It's so difficult, isn't it? Because this is the impossible one, because you've got 3 players and you've got to choose 2.
Olivier Giroud, Yaya Sanogo, and who else?
John Radford. No, I mean, obviously we were spoiled in the early 90s and the late 80s with Alan Smith. Won the Golden Boot twice, I believe, in 2 both our league title campaigns. Part of that folklore at Anfield, and obviously was playing up front with Merce in those days. And then we had Ian Wright. And the only reason why Ian Wright isn't in that team is because of the other 2 players. So Ian Wright, as a person, as a personality, as an instinctive talent, would walk into anybody's team. You'd have to say. And the only reason I would have Bergkamp and Henry over Wrighty is just that we never quite achieved things. He was the saviour of Arsenal in an awful period of the latter George Graham era.
Yeah.
And obviously he flourished he hated under Rioch. He started to flourish under Wenger, won the double, but was injured at the end of that season, didn't get in on the FA Cup final. So, he didn't play in the Cup Winners' Cup final. So, whilst he was there, he won some trophies and he scored so many goals and is an absolute Arsenal legend. I think on pure ability, I would go with Bergkamp and Henry as a partnership. And I find that really hard, and I almost feel disloyal to Wrighty saying it, because that book I've just written, the influence that Wrighty has on fans, whether they're disabled fans, as the case is in this book, or just generally, he was the reason why so many people fell in love with that football club. If you weren't into football and you got into football, sometimes it was because of Ian Wright. This larger than life, ebullient character. I'm trying to talk myself out of my decision, actually. Something, I'm gonna go with Bergkamp and Wright instead of Bergkamp and Henry. Is that unthinkable? Is that unthinkable?
That's okay with me. You go for it. Bergkamp and Wright.
You know what? I am, actually, because Bergkamp is, along with Brady, the best player I've seen, a technician, to control a football and control a football match.
The Iceman.
I've never seen, and he wasn't even always in the team. People forget that. I mean, he didn't start the 2003-2004 season. It was Wiltord who started up front. He didn't even start in 2001-2002. You know, it was Wiltord again, or Carnu. He was in and out of the team. But every time he was in the team, he made things happen. And those early years under Rioch and the early Wenger years, that 97-98, he was just unplayable. He was just immense. So yeah, Bergkamp all day. Like as Henry and Wright would both say, he's the best player they ever played with, and they played with some good players.
Yeah.
Henry, I mean, he won the World Cup, crikey. But yeah, Bergkamp has to be in the team as the sort of deep line striker. And I just think I've talked myself into putting Wrighty up front. And then the reason why is Thierry Henry, I don't feel the same affection for Henry that I feel for Bergkamp, because whilst he's always quick with the quip about Arsenal over Tottenham, and he obviously is an Arsenal man. He's not quite an Arsenal man in the same way that Ian Wright is.
Yeah.
Bergkamp has to be in the team. So yeah, I've changed my mind.
Okay,
I'm going to play Wrighty. But Henry was unplayable at times. But as an instinctive goal scorer, as a centre forward, Ian Wright was Ian Wright. He should have played so many more games for England, but England were blessed at that time. It's so many good strikers that he was competing with. But yeah, I'm going to go Bergkamp and Wright. Sorry, changed my mind.
That's all right. Any Wrighty goals that stand out to you that you were there for, or any in particular that
I was there for a lot. Oh no, there were so many. I mean, that sort of chip. Was it Yeovil? And I can't remember the one where he juggled it twice over his head.
I think that was Everton. I remember.
Everton chip Southall. Yeah, there were some incredible goals. And the other thing about I'll give you about Ian Wright, and I could say the same about Henry. In the modern era, genuinely two-footed players are rare. Like Santi, Geordie Armstrong, genuinely two-footed players. Ian Wright didn't make any difference to him which foot he came on. It didn't make any difference. Even Henry or Pires had to adjust and think about it. But Ian Wright, literally, you didn't know. It didn't matter where the ball landed, he would hit it with that foot instinctively, and it didn't make any difference. And and it shouldn't be rare at top level football, but it is.
Yeah.
It really shouldn't be, but it really is. Yeah.
100%. Well, you should be able to see Dave's Arsenal 11 on screen right now somewhere here. I will point to it. Absolutely brilliant having you on, Dave. I really appreciate your time. Just before we go, did you want to just kind of self-promote, obviously, your book, Arsenal for Everyone, at the moment? I'm sure most people have heard about it. Obviously, I bought a copy of it myself, but I'm going home for Christmas today, so it's at my parents' house, so I don't have it here to hold up.
I believe you.
You signed it, Dave.
I know. No, honestly, it's to be honest with you, the first edition, the first print run has sold out at Legends. So we'll be doing a new print run for the new year. But at Arsenal, we sold a lot of copies at the official club launch because it's an Arsenal back book. You can still get it from Arsenal direct, but I'm sure it's too late for Christmas presents. But obviously, what it looks at is a different context of Arsenal support, because everyone in the book I've interviewed is disabled, whether they're blind, whether they're deaf, whether they've got cerebral palsy, whether they've got muscular dystrophy. Lots of different disabilities, but equally every story in its own right is inspiring, is motivational. But what I'm aiming to achieve really is to make us all step back and think about how lucky we sometimes are, and how quick we are to get on the team's back, or moan about the team, or moan about Arsenal, or moan about the manager. Just take a step back and give it some context. These people, as I say, some of these people who go home and away have never seen the team score a goal. They've never heard the crowd roar. They've never been able to jump when the team scores. And yet their passion and their commitment is unbelievable. So it's really, if you do get hold of a copy, forget the quality of my writing, just the stories, which is debatable, but the stories are inspiring. They really are.
Yeah, 100%. I'm definitely going to be sitting down. Now all my deadlines are done, I'm going to be sitting down and giving it a read over the Christmas period. But a massive thank you, Dave. Happy Christmas to you. And hopefully we see some good Arsenal results going into the new year. And
hopefully we might.
Hopefully we might. And maybe even a few Charlie Patino cameos and more goals would go down a treat, I think.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm auctioning a pair of Charlie Patino signed boots on Twitter at the moment for the charity that my book is linked to. So check that out, Gunnar Dave 66, if you want to bid for something that is pretty much a unique item.
100%. I'll leave a link to that auction in the description, alongside a link to wherever I can find, probably on Arsenal Direct.
It is Arsenal Direct now, yeah.
Sure, for Arsenal, for everyone. Also, if you're not following Dave already, I'll leave a link to him too. Make sure to drop him a follow. Subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, tweet us at ArsenalVavel1. Let us know your opinions. Do you feel like some of Dave's choices were justified, or do you think that throwing some of those players in, not picking Henry, can you believe it? No, I'm joking. Massive thank you again, Dave.
Thank you.
And cheers for watching, guys, and we will catch you again later.